A very good afternoon. We begin with the breaking news that the BBC has published its annual report. Of course, it comes amid controversy around the culture of treatment of contestants on one of its flagship shows, Strictly Come Dancing. Let's bring in our arts and entertainment correspondent, Katie Spencer, who's at New Broadcasting House for us. What are the headlines in the report, Katie?
As predicted, the annual report press briefing was pretty much entirely dominated by talk around what's currently happening with Strictly. Yes, the report contains the usual details, their intentions of how they're going to make savings, details of presenter salaries. I think rather randomly on that, Hugh Edwards, their former newsreader who only left at the start of the summer, remains their third highest paid talent of last year, which obviously for a lot of people will be a bit disappointing given that he wasn't even on air. But look, it has been dominated by talk around what's going on behind the scenes in Strictly, the bullying claims involving professional dancers like the former dancer Giovanni Panice, things that were put to Tim Davie. Will the review into certain dancers conclude before the next series begins? He said soon. They're hoping to have results on that soon, so that is sounding like we will hopefully have answers really exactly on what's going on there. Giovanni, of course, himself has completely refuted the allegations that actress Amanda Abingdon has made that he was a bully and that he was cruel within the training practices. It was put to Tim Davie as well, does he expect the lineup to change in any way? Because on the front page of The Sun today, more speculation that other dancers who are going to be on the show in September have been named as possibly people that will want to be sort of removed from the lineup of the show. He said categorically he does not expect the lineup of the show to change. One would expect that is dependent on whether or not any other allegations to come to light, but certainly as it stands he says he doesn't expect the lineup to change. Asked personally how he felt about this whole debacle and these allegations to come to light, he said of course he's been absolutely disappointed about it all. He said he cares about duty of care. It's something that he takes very seriously, and he said it's incumbent with a show like this to ensure that there is that competitiveness within the show, because that's why we all tune in obviously, but he is determined that he doesn't want this to cross a line. He wants to keep the door open though for anyone who is unhappy about that experience, and he says he doesn't believe that's many people given the hundreds of contestants that have gone through this over the years, but he said he obviously wants to keep the dialogue going and he wants to keep the door open for anyone that may have a grievance or a problem with what their experience was like. It was put to him as well, was there a failure to protect contestants, particularly the incidents that were filmed in plain sight? That of course would be a reference to Graziano, the professional who has been now sacked from the show and apologised because he was filmed kicking Zara McDermott, the former reality star, who said she was very upset by her experience on the show. He said he can't talk about individual cases, but said sometimes they can act quickly about complaints when there is a clear case. Sometimes it takes a longer process, and they want to be fair and they want to talk to everyone, so it isn't something that they can immediately make an answer to. So I think again that comes back to the review that they're currently carrying out at the moment, the inquiries they're carrying out, and he is hoping that we will have an answer on that soon. Was there ever talk of Strictly ever itself being taken off air? He said that would have only happened if he wasn't feeling assured that the right safeguarding practices were in place. And he says he is absolutely assured that there is a robust action has been taken, and that particularly things like the introduction that they've now announced of special welfare producers coming into for the next series. He says that they are in position to deliver the show that they need to deliver, and that he doesn't feel that anyone would be vulnerable if they were taking part in the show. And he was keen to stress it's not right to characterise the BBC or the producers of the show as having insufficient duty of care. He simply doesn't feel that's the case. Should we just show you a little bit of what he said verbatim as well? So one of the things he said is if someone feels there was something wrong or they want to talk about their experience, then of course we want them to raise that with us and be in no doubt we will take it seriously, listen and deal with it as appropriate. It is vital, of course, that we have the right protocols and structures in place for the show. We keep these under review, and as you know, we confirmed changes to these last week. It is essential these are right for everyone. He went on to say, of course, alongside the fun and entertainment, there will be a degree of competition, hard work and a will to do well. That's part of what makes this show. But there are limits, and that line should never be crossed. We will never tolerate unacceptable behaviour of any kind. I have to say, in some of the questioning, he did kind of sidestep the fact that it is on camera from, look, years ago in some cases, of certainly the professional dancers pushing their contestants at quite a tough level. He didn't seem to want to get into the details, really, of whether or not it's a bit late in the day, really, for them to be introducing things like chaperones now. But look, he has come out, he has spoken about what's happening with the show, and we know that he says he feels personally that the level of duty of care is sufficient for this year's show to go ahead in September.
Absolutely fascinating, all of that, Katie, on the Strictly stuff, which is obviously the topic du jour. In terms of the pay, and the other line I'm seeing crossing is that there's going to be 500 redundancies of full-time staff over the next 2 years. What were the things that jumped out for you there?
Look, it is one of those things where, sadly for the BBC, it is a bit unfortunate that the conversation is being dominated by Strictly Today, because there are so many other issues that the BBC is facing that are important to be discussed, really, and including those redundancies. We know that the BBC, over the course of the last decade or so, has been making cut after cut to try and get things like its newsrooms down to the minimum amount possible in terms of staff and in terms of operational costs, because it is under pressure, really, to deliver more for less money. Those redundancies, I think a lot of people who are in there today will be incredibly worried about what the future likes for the BBC. And I think, yeah, certainly it will have rattled a few people, and I think there will be a lot of frustration that Strictly is the thing that people are talking about, rather than things like, as you say, the amount of job cuts that are planned. The wages is interesting as well. I mean, that is the other thing, the irony of having to make so many cuts when, yet again, you've got people like Gary Lineker topping the salary list of top talent earners. Gary Lineker, of course, earning 1.3 million, just an extraordinary amount of money, followed closely by Zoe Ball, herself a former Strictly contestant and host of the Strictly spin-off show It Takes Two. No longer that. She's, of course, does the BBC Radio 2 breakfast show, but she's the second highest earner. And then, of course, the number 3, Hugh Edwards, who hasn't been on air for the last year, but, of course, was still entitled to his pay because he was off sick before actually handing his notice in earlier this summer. But, yeah, and so many different things to discuss, but Strictly dominating the conversation this lunchtime.
Katie Spencer, as always, thanks so much. Really interesting stuff coming out of the BBC report, and Katie will be back with us throughout the afternoon.